What's going on, guys? NFL season preview here. My boy Shane on the Money Backers Show every Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. It's our first live show back since last year. Going to go over some NFL season preview division-wise, what we like, what we don't like, best bets, and some futures we like. I know Shane's got some sneaky stuff behind the sleeves. What do you think is going to happen for this NFL season? We're going to hop right into it. First one on the board. Maybe one of the toughest divisions in football, toughest divisions in recent history. We're going to hop into the AFC East. Shane, what you got for this one?
I mean, this is basically a three-headed race. I'm sorry, but I don't think the Patriots have a shot to win the division. I don't mean it. Don't know if that bursts your bubble or not.
No.
I've seen some people not pick the Patriots to be last in the division, though. I saw Nick Wright pick the Jets to be the worst team in the division. He does not believe in this Jets team. some teams are just not going to make the cut in the playoffs for the AFC. There's too many good teams and good quarterbacks that are not going to make it, and I think one of these teams is going to fall victim to that. In my opinion, it's the Jets. I don't think they have a really hard schedule to start the season. Their first 6 games are Buffalo, Dallas, New England, Kansas City, Denver, and Philly. That is a rough start for the season. I think the offense is going to take a little bit to gel. I mean, people think that their skill positions are loaded. Not really. I mean, they just brought in Dalvin Cook. Breece Hall's still not fully healthy. Garrett Wilson, we're hoping, takes the next step as a receiver to join the elite category. But behind him, Allen Lazard is your number 2 to try to compete and win games. Doesn't sound too enticing. The offensive line significantly worse than what Aaron Rodgers had in Green Bay. The defense is still, I think, going to be strong. Salah's going to make sure of that. I also wouldn't be shocked if Salah's fired before the end of the season if they start off to a really bad start. And Rodgers, I think, has some pull for the Jets right now, obviously, because he's the best quarterback they've had since Brett Favre. Is that crazy to say?
No, 100%. This is their season since Mark Sanchez, I guess, in 2008. But this is the guy. This is the guy they've been waiting for or hoping for since, I guess, since Favre left.
Rodgers has made it clear that this isn't just a 1-year thing. He's planning to at least play multiple years. I think he probably plays 2. I don't have them as a playoff team this year, but I'm going to already book my shot in for next year that the Jets win the Super Bowl next year. We're not even into this season. I'm calling it for next season. Their start of their schedule this season is brutal for the Jets. It's so bad. They could realistically start 1-5.
Yeah, 100%.
I still have them finishing positive.
There's a but there. There's a but.
Yeah, big one.
Big one.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my first big prediction for 2024. I am not a huge Josh Allen guy, as you know. I just think he turns the ball over too much. He's mobile, which everyone loves. It's great. Injuries are coming. With the running, with the just putting stuff out there to get hit, which is great, man. We love to see it in the NFL. That's what we watch it for. But this Jets team last year won games with Zach Wilson. Right? They won games in this the schedule though. They won these type of games with Zach Wilson with this defense. Now you bring in a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who is loving New York. Absolutely loving it. His demeanor and his attitude has never been higher coming into this year. Probably since, I don't know, mid 2015s, 2016 area of him being with the Packers when they're still relevant at some point. This guy is happy to be here, happy to be playing football. Played in his first preseason game in how long? What, years, right? Wasn't it years?
Oh God, I can't. It was at least 3 or 4 years since.
Yeah, so he is bought in. He is ready to go, and that's scary. Scary shit for the AFC East.
You mentioned them winning a lot of games with Mike White and Zach Wilson. The games they won last year with those even Joe Flacco. The games they won last year were not good games or against any good teams in the slightest. I'll read them off to you right now. They beat the Jets, or they beat the Browns week 2 after they scored 14 points in about 30 seconds because of that Hail Mary and the onside kick. So crazy win to start off there. They beat the Steelers, who stunk last year with Kenny Pickett at quarterback.
Yep.
They beat Aaron Rodgers. They beat the Denver Broncos. I don't really need to go into detail about how the Broncos offense.
I get what you're saying. I get it. But now they can win those games like they're supposed to, right? And then win the tough ones too. the tough home games
Yeah,
against
I'm
the
not saying
Dolphins.
there isn't going to be any improvement to this team. I have them going 10-7, but I just think the AFC's too loaded right now for a first year with Aaron Rodgers there, whole new system, not
Eh,
really a clear number 2 option
eh,
in the offense.
I don't know, dude. I don't know. That plus money is calling my name for the AFC East division
I
title.
mean,
It
I'm
really
saying
is.
there's not. I'm not saying there isn't value in it, but me personally, I think they're playing. This is like okay, let's figure out the finite details and some stuff, and then next year with Aaron Rodgers taking that huge pay cut, they have money. I feel
Yeah,
that they could be in the Mike Evans hunt because Mike Evans is going to be. This is his last year in Tampa Bay, whether he's traded or he's just done after this year. Mike Evans is done in Tampa. If they add Mike Evans to that offense, you have Garrett Wilson and Mike Evans on either side of Aaron Rodgers, and you have maybe Dalvin Cook's there again next year. But then you already have Brees Hall, offensive line. Hopefully stays healthy and is still kind of young and the
yeah.
defense is there. This seems more of like a 2-year process as opposed to it's just gonna click. Everything's just gonna click immediately.
I get it. I get it. For me, it's just like when I look at futures, like they're season long, right? So where I can get the most value or like most like predictive value here is with the teams that aren't necessarily supposed to win the divisions. Obviously, AFC East is not wide open, but it kind of is. If Tua plays great and stays healthy, they have a great chance of winning the division as well. But do I want to put my money on Tua not getting hurt? Unfortunately, because we all want to see him ball out. Like it's not like we want him to get hurt, but it's just the reason why you can't back them this year. Let's go into the other team in the New York area for the AFC East. We've talked about the Jets. Let's talk about the Bills for a second. Bills obviously face off the Jets week 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we got a little easy schedule here, so it could start out 3-0 technically,
Yes.
right? Raiders, Commanders. First real test comes up in the next 3 games. 3 games are pretty tough. Dolphins, Jags. Jags are going to be tough this year, and then your Giants. They could start out 6-0, dude. They really could.
Mm-hmm.
They have the potential to be, a really good team this year. The problem is, like, you're playing some of these teams who might not be great on offense, but most of these teams have dogs on defense. The Commanders are, top 10 defensive league this year, and Josh Allen facing these teams early might be a cause for concern, in my opinion. Just the turnovers, it gets to me. I don't know if you feel the same way with Josh, but this schedule, man, he's playing some tough defenses early and often, and towards the end of the year, it doesn't get much better too. You got Bengals, Broncos D, obviously top 5. Jets arguably top 5 defense, and then the Eagles too. So it's a tough road, very tough road for them. So this could be interesting
Yeah.
to see.
I just see the Bills as like what the Saints used to be. Like they're a big regular season team. Like they get a lot of these wins in the regular season, and then they have to like go under the lights in the postseason, and then they crumble. I still kind of see the same thing this year. They added a new weapon on offense in Dalton Kincaid. Um, Offensive line still could be an issue for them, but with Josh Allen's mobility, like if you have a mobile quarterback, the offensive line doesn't become as like you need to be clean in the pocket 100% of the time. Von Miller will be back at some point for them. I don't know. I think it's around like week 6 or something. They're eyeing him to come back. But the big question just is can Josh Allen cut back on the turnovers after last year? But he did have the bum elbow. He got surgery on the elbow. We'll see how he plays um, as he's healthy in his arm again. But I don't have a reason to not keep them on top of the division right now. I can see why you are very hesitant on them, but I don't have a reason because they still have a top defense and they still have an elite offense in my mind.
I can't disagree, dude. I really can't. It's just for me, we're talking about just value here, right? And the value for me here is the Jets. The safe pick is the Bills, right? We've seen them do it. They've done it for the past 3-4 years. They've dominated the Patriots. Ever since Brady left, and it's been the complete opposite since Brady left. It's been Bills takeover central in New England. So the Bills are the safe pick. The Bills are the parlay piece that you want to build for a long season divisional winner. But for value, it's got to be the Jets. It's got to be the Jets. We're gonna hop into the Dolphins real quick here for their schedule. Again, not easy. This AFC East schedule for all these teams is going to be tough. Chargers, week 1, 3-point dog. Week 2 in New England, tough. Week 3 at home against the Broncos, tough. Week 4 at Bills, tough. Giants, tough. And then they have an easy one with the Panthers. But their first 7 weeks, man, 6 of the 7 could be losses. You know what I mean? The potential to be.
Yeah. But if Tua the big key here is Tua staying healthy, because we saw what the Dolphins could do last year when Tua was healthy. They were dominant. I think they were 5-1 or something.
Yeah.
They were clicking, and the defense. Everybody's hyping up the defense this year. I mean, they added Jalen Ramsey, but he's not going to be back till December. But I still think this defense plays better than what they did last year. I have the Dolphins making the playoffs as the second place team in the AFC East right now. But I mean, if Tua goes out, it'll hurt. They have Mike White as a backup, which is better than what they had last year, and Teddy Bridgewater and Skylar Thompson.
Yeah.
But if Tua stays healthy, this team could be dangerous come playoff time.
Of course.
Because they have the most explosive offense probably in the NFL because they have the 2 fastest receivers in the NFL. But
yeah. I mean, we put out a future, on Twitter at the Money Backers. If you guys want to follow us on Twitter, we put out future picks about a week ago or so, and we put out Dolphins over 9.5, plus 100. It's great value. You're getting a team who could win 11, 12 games at double-digit wins. So it's just tough, man. Tua is just it's going to happen at some point. It's hard to you don't want to predict injuries, of course, but he's going to be out a certain amount of weeks this year. It's just going to happen, unfortunately. That's just the nature of the beast right now for Tua. So it's just how bad is that injury going to be for him? Is it going to be weeks? Is it going to be, multiple weeks, or is it going to be, a week's rest versus a non-opponent that they can win with Mike White? Or it's just, I don't know. It's going to be different. It's going to be tough for Tua, especially this year with this schedule. You know what I mean? So. I'm trying to find a picture of the Patriots schedule, but it is virtually impossible.
We can just talk about how they're probably not going to do well.
It's not going to matter because Bill Belichick is stuck in his own ways here. He still thinks he has Tom Brady as quarterback, so he doesn't have to spend money on important positions like maybe a running back, Dalvin Cook, or maybe a wide receiver in the name of DeAndre Hopkins. So that's that. We can dive into this one real quick. It's not going to be pretty, to say the least. Week 1 is interesting. We look at the line here, 4.5 at home. Interesting is the right word for that one. We know it's Brady's day. The emotions are going to be high. Brady coming back to New England for the first time. But the Eagles team, man, it's the same team as last year, basically. Some pieces are missing in the secondary. They added Swift, but it's going to be a tough game. And then the AFC East in general, that's 6 games. We're going to go 0-6.
I think I gave you guys one division game, and it was against, I think, the Dolphins. But it's
tough, man.
Bill Belichick on the hot seat. I've seen some people talking about if Bill Belichick's on the hot seat or not. This is a legitimate question because he is not. It's not a matter of him. Obviously he's great, but you have to move on at some point. And if something's not working here, you have to change it.
He's not going anywhere. And I'm not saying it's the right call. I'm not saying him staying is the right call, but he he has a definition of a lifetime deal. He will not be moving on anytime soon.
I don't say you have to get rid of him completely. He could still be because he's like what your GM and your head coach. Still, you could still
Yep.
have him in the GM role, but like in 2023, his style of play does not fit this NFL right now. I think it's safe to say.
I can't disagree with you. I can't. Yeah, he ain't going nowhere. All right, moving on. AFC South. Another toughie.
There's a hot one right here. Big hot
So
one.
obviously the Jags coming in as favorites. You got Titans behind them. The Colts, I think, are next, and then the Texans are next, and then the Colts. Jaguars come in, huge year last year. Obviously, we watched them get into the playoffs for the first time in a couple of years. I know your sleeper pick for the MVP is himself and Trevor Lawrence.
With the addition of Calvin Ridley, like we see these quarterbacks take big steps when they're given like an alpha wide receiver. We saw Josh Allen do it with Stephon Diggs. We saw Jalen Hurts do it with AJ Brown. Even though Ridley hasn't played in a couple of years, we've seen from practice and in the preseason, Calvin Ridley looks like the Calvin Ridley of old. This isn't like a Deshaun Watson thing where he looks washed right now after not playing. Calvin Ridley looks like he's the dude again. And giving a young quarterback this elite weapon only benefits them tremendously. And a second year in Doug Peterson's system, they still have Christian Kirk. They still have Zay Jones. They kept Evan Ingram. They have Travis Etienne. They have a decent offensive line. They're going to have to put up points because their defense is a little bit shaky. So if they want to stay in a lot of games, then they got to be scoring. And they're going to probably lean on the passing offense to keep them in games. So Trevor Lawrence is going to be putting up numbers in that case. And I think they win the division kind of handily just because of the explosiveness they have on offense, which should line up them or Trevor Lawrence to be in the MVP conversation this year.
Yeah, I mean he's right there it's right there for the taking for him. And he proved it last year where he is obviously he's the guy, but we knew that. Now it's like, dude, it's time to step up. This is your team now. It's your season to win. It's just winning now. Like we know he can do it. We saw it last year.
Mm-hmm.
But can he duplicate it? Can he do it twice? That's always the question with young quarterbacks. Can they do it twice?
Well, it helps that two of these teams are starting rookie quarterbacks, and rookie quarterbacks traditionally do not perform well team-wise or like record-wise. So 2/3 of his competition is kind of already out of the way. It's just having to deal with the Titans.
Yeah, I agree. And we talk about value, right? When we talked about the Jets, the value here in this division is going to be the Titans. It just is. Titans, good coach. A quarterback who has shown he can win. Just slow down the turnovers, Tannehill. You got the beast. Hold on. The beast and Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
Hopkins, who I think is going to do well there with Tannehill. And then you got Jalen Burks, who's the X factor kind of in the offense. If he's healthy, is he not? But O-line issues, obviously, for them.
Worst offensive line in the NFL. It's already like there. It's the worst one.
So O-line issues for them, which means problems for Derrick Henry, probably health issues for Derrick Henry. And the defense, right? It's getting old. I think it's getting old. They haven't really improved their secondary. I think we've talked about secondary for them the past 3 years.
I mean, they still have a couple guys back there, though. It's a matter of if they stay healthy, though. Like Caleb Farley was this first-round pick for them, but he hasn't really been able to stay on the field for a full season. They still have Kevin Byard there, who's like the leader in the back end. He's been up and down in his career, but he's still good back there. It's just a matter of their team staying healthy. They didn't have Harold Landry, I believe, at all last year, who's their premier like outside pass rusher. They still have Jeffrey Simmons. I think this team can be in the conversation for the playoffs. I just wonder, can Tannehill do enough / stay healthy to lead this team? Because if we're going through points where Will Levis is the third string, excuse me. If Malik Willis is having to be back there again in the offense, and we saw how this offense worked with Malik Willis at quarterback, it was not good. And behind a really bad offensive line, I don't know if they have enough juice to get past the Jaguars. Even though it was close last year, and they had Dobbs versus Lawrence in the last game of the year to determine the winner of that division. They're in the mix, but I don't think they get into the playoffs this year.
No, it's going to be division or nothing for them, which I think has some value. I can't really. I'm not going to say, Trevor Lawrence is going to have a great back-to-back season. Obviously, we want him to. It's a want, but you can't expect. I don't know. It's just hard for me to expect a guy to do it in back-to-back years at such a young age. And maybe that's me being naive and me being, I don't know, but it's to the point where, like, do I trust him? Is he a guy we can trust to one, stay healthy, two, I mean, he hasn't really shown health issues in the past, so it's not really a concern, but can he minimize the turnovers? Is he still going to be the mobile guy that can get, a 3rd and 3 off a bootleg? Can he still do those types? Is he still going to be that guy that we saw? And I really just hope he is.
The best quarterback prospect we've seen in a while. I mean, that could be argued based off what happens this year if Caleb Williams declares or not. But Trevor Lawrence was like the highest touted quarterback prospect probably since Andrew Luck at this point. And he just seems like he has that X factor like in him to be able to be that game changer.
Yeah. Let's hop into the real quick Titans schedule. Obviously, New Orleans, the first game on the road. I think it's a 3-point
Such a
game.
bad draw. Terrible draw for week 1 for the Titans.
Yeah, I agree. I like New Orleans in that game.
Me too.
Chargers, tough game. Cleveland, tough game. You're playing against Deshaun Watson. It's going to be tough. Cincy, tough game. And then, Indy, but I think will be their settling down point in the year. Get a win there. Maybe a 2-3 start, probably at best in that situation, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And then Baltimore, which is going to be tough. Get the bye week, and then 3 winnable games for them after the bye, which I think will be critical for their season in Atlanta, Pittsburgh, and the Buccaneers. Because after that, it's not tough, but you got Jacksonville twice. You got Miami and Seattle. If they can split with Jacksonville, they can win the rest of those games, dude. And that's going to be the point where it's like, all right, are they fighting for a playoff spot? Which I think is a real possibility. So
yes.
All right, Colts.
Anthony Richardson will be fun to watch, but in a good and bad ways, because he's gonna have some plays where it's gonna be like, what the hell are you doing? Like, why did you like the one preseason pass he had when he was getting sacked and he threw it straight into the defender's hands? Like, that's gonna happen this year. We're not expecting huge volume in this offense, especially if Jonathan Taylor is not even there. We don't know what's going on with that.
Yep.
There's a realistic shot that Taylor doesn't play a single snap this year, and if that doesn't happen, or if that happens, this might be in contention for the worst team in the NFL right now. This is a complete rebuild at this point. They hope Anthony Richardson can be kind of like what Jalen Hurts was for Shane Steichen. I mean, he picked Anthony Richardson to be his guy. The defense is losing everything. They lost Gilmore. They lost their best corner in Rodgers because he got suspended for the year, and they cut him. Michael Pittman's brick hands as their number 1 receiver. Offensive line's like okay right now. They've lost a piece or two. There's going to be a lot of growing pains, but I think I think Anthony Richardson will be fine. Like, for a career or whatever. I don't think this is a Trey Lance situation. This is like if the redo of Trey Lance, like, but Anthony Richardson this time. Highly touted draft pick, extremely athletic, didn't do a lot in college, if anything, but they're hoping that could be the guy. But this is someone actually getting the chance to like be a starter and whatnot.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a tough year. Because he's made what 13 starts
Mm-hmm.
since high school. Like, what are we expecting here for him? What, like, Shane, as a guy who watches, I do too, but you're more in depth with me than watching every game that this guy plays. Like, what are we expecting here for him? Like,
This is like somebody playing on Madden and they just created a dude with just like if you just create a scrambler quarterback archetype, you're gonna be trying to run like crazy. Like Anthony Richardson's probably gonna be pushing 800 plus yards on the ground this year. But he's gonna have a lot of errant throws. The accuracy is a huge question mark. He's gonna hit some, he's gonna miss some. I think if Jonathan Taylor was there, it would be a lot better for him because rookie quarterbacks lean on the run game, set up the pass. But if you're having Deion Jackson and Evan Hull be your starting backs going into the season right now, there's not going to be a run game. Teams aren't going to like stack the box on that and make it easier to throw on.
Yeah,
Anthony
100%.
Anthony Richardson, he still has a lot to learn, and he's gonna learn that this year. Like he can't, if he's about to get sacked, he can't try to throw the ball to a receiver's hand while he's getting hit and the guy's covered. Like you can't do that stuff when it's actually game time.
Yeah. Diving into the schedule real quick. It's kind of wishy-washy, I think. It's kind of like not a bad schedule for a rookie quarterback. Obviously Jacksonville is Jacksonville, but they play in Houston, in Baltimore. Hopefully split one of those. But Rams, winnable game because of that awful defense. Okay, Tennessee,
Yes.
winnable game. It is at home, winnable game. In Jacksonville is gonna be tough. Then you got Cleveland and New Orleans, which, to be honest, Shane, we don't know what we're actually getting with those teams yet. Like
No.
we expect good things from Derek Carr in New Orleans. We expect Deshaun to have a bounce back year and be the Deshaun Watson that we know that he is. But you
Do
don't
we?
know. I mean, I think we do. Do we not?
Do we? We'll get to that when we get to the FC North.
But I expect him to. I expect a big year from him. So you got the Browns, you got the Saints. Both most likely going to be losses. Then you got 3 winnable games in the Panthers, the team in New England, and the Bucks. Right? Those are 3 winnable games. I'm going to be completely honest. In New England's going to be tough. In New England's tough.
Well, no, that's the Germany game.
Oh, is it? It's right. You're right. Yeah. So I mean, it's got potential to be a fun season for Anthony. I hope it is for him. Just don't get hurt, dude. Please. Just please don't get hurt. We don't want another situation where it's like another Colts quarterback's hurt early and he's calling it quits in year 2. So
I see them not going crazy passing the ball this year.
No, they're gonna try to do their best to protect him. But his inner instinct is gonna come out at some point.
Mm-hmm.
His instinct of running the ball out of the pocket, doing some crazy shit. It's gonna happen, and I hope he does it in obviously the right times. But it's gonna be tough for him, especially in the division. There's some tough D's in that division. Texans aren't gonna get into their schedule because gotta keep moving. But Texans defense isn't a joke either. So,
DeMeco Ryans is building it up. CJ Stroud doesn't really have like a ceiling, but he's got like a pretty decent floor. Like he's not gonna be. I think he has the lowest floor out of lowest ceiling out of all the rookie quarterbacks, but he has the highest floor. Like he's the most accurate guy there. He'll hit the throws that you need decent bit. My big prediction though with the Texans comes from Dameon Pierce. I think Dameon Pierce is this year's Josh Jacobs. I think Dameon Pierce is going to be top 10 rusher. We saw his ability to play every down this preseason, and we saw him doing it kind of last season, but they've mixed in Rex Burkhead. Rex Burkhead's not there anymore. This is going to be a Dameon Pierce show, and I think they're going to lean on him a lot to help CJ Stroud, not force him into throwing the ball 40 times a game, throw for 300 something yards, because their offense is built like that. Their number one receiver is Nico Collins. They're not probably looking to throw the ball a whole lot. I think this is big for Dameon Pierce. That offensive line's been getting better. They just got Shaq Mason. They still have Tunsil. They have Titus Howard. They have pieces on there.
For sure. No, it should be interesting to see what Stroud can do with that O-line. It should protect him pretty nicely. It's just getting weapons around him now who can help him succeed. AFC North.
Well, here we go. This is the division to talk about.
Tough division here. Obviously, Lamar staying with Baltimore, like we all thought he would. Cincy, Joe Burrow, get some issues there in Cincinnati, I think. Deshaun Watson in Cleveland. And then Kenny Pickett, who is the worst quarterback in the division, but a fan favorite, I think.
He looked really good. I mean, it was the preseason or whatever, but he looked dialed in, which could be good for the Steelers this year. They got to keep the going positive streak going. I still have them going positive. I just don't see a world where they don't finish positive. They have the defense to be in every game. The offense can. I think in another year with all these guys in there with Pickens and Pickett and Deontay Johnson, who will have a touchdown this year. He's not going to have 0 touchdowns like last year. They've been implementing Jaylen Warren more into the running game, so it's not just going to be the Najee Harris show, I don't think. And Mike Tomlin is still like a top 5 coach in the league. Like, he knows he figures out ways to win games, even with mediocre quarterback play. Like Kenny Pickett had like 7 passing touchdowns last year or something, 7 or 9, and they were still winning games. The big question really in this division, or one of them, the big one, is Deshaun Watson for the Browns. We saw what happened last year. They went 3-3 with him, but he looked like a shell of his former self last year. I think that's safe to say.
Yeah,
he had a lot going on mentally with the off the field stuff. But this is the first full season we're about to get of Deshaun Watson. And the question is, do we see the guy from 2020 that threw for 5,000 yards and was a top 5 quarterback? Or do we see what we saw last year? I think it's somewhere in the middle. I don't think we're not going to go extreme on either side of the spectrum. I think he'll be fine, but I don't think the top 5 quarterback is there anymore. It's not like receiver where it's just running or whatever. Being quarterback, it's a huge mental game. And the stuff that he's gone through mentally the past few years, I think hurts him a little bit when it comes to being on the field.
For sure. The good thing is, first of all, I liked him week 1 for different reasons.
I have them winning week 1 as well.
Okay. So obviously, we'll hop in the Bengals next, but this Joe Burrow injury is scaring me. And I think it's going to be a lingering one for the year. I think this Browns team is ready to go. I think Deshaun is ready to prove the doubters wrong. The line says it's the Browns game. I kind of agree with the line here. And this team could legitimately start out 3-0. And looking to take the division by the neck in week 4 with Baltimore. But we still have questions on the offense. Obviously, they got Elijah Moore as a solid 2, which I think is going to be huge for Deshaun. No more Kareem Hunt.
That's going to hurt them a lot, I think.
Yeah. So a lot more on Nick Chubb, which, could cause other issues there. Over workload in a tough division with tough defenses, it's going to be tough on them. But they have somewhat of an easy schedule, in my opinion. After the Niners game, you have kind of a nice ride into that Jaguars game in week 14. You got the Colts, Seahawks, Cardinals, Ravens on the road. I believe that means yes, right? Does that mean on the road? Yeah, because Black
They're
is home.
home. They're home week 1, so yeah,
Yeah, so
Black
they're,
is
so they're
home.
gonna hopefully split with the Ravens. So we'll just call it a wash there. Home against Pittsburgh. On the road in Denver, it's gonna be tough, but I think it's still a winnable game. And in LA, which we all know that defense, Deshaun should shred that defense up. And they finish off pretty nice too with the Texans and the Bears too. But the last two are going to be probably what makes or breaks them this year in making the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be that AFC North is crazy. It's going to be interesting to see.
I
Let's
have
get right.
every team finishing above 500 in that division, but
Wow.
2 of them not making the playoffs, and Browns are one of them.
Okay. So, yeah, obviously Ravens, Bengals are top.
Yes.
What do you think about that injury, Shane? Do you think it's me lingering?
I don't think it's as big of a problem if it were to be for like if Josh Allen had this injury, we're big red flags all over the place. But Joe Burrow stays in the pocket most of the time, so he's not going to be on the move crazy ton as much as like a Josh Allen, Mahomes, Hurts, Lamar, any of those guys. He lives in the pocket. He's like Brady, live in the pocket, but he has the ability to move if he needs. But that probably gets toned down a little. I still think this team is really dangerous. If they can limit him, if I'm the Bengals, I don't even play Joe Burrow week 1. Just give him another week just to work on the calf. The practice and the coach have been saying that it should be fine. The extra week isn't going to hurt them. I don't think losing this game to the Browns, which I had them losing regardless, it doesn't hurt them in my mind because they're still a top team in the league. They brought in Orlando Brown at left tackle, so it should help Joe Burrow. They lost Jesse Bates on defense. Eli Apple, the legend of Cincinnati, isn't there anymore. But starting at the end of last season, I just have a feeling that this is the year for the Bengals. They are my pick for the Super Bowl. I will say it right now, they are my pick to win the Super Bowl this year. I'm not going to change. If there's a team if there's a team that can we've seen it already happen, that overtake the Chiefs and go to the Super Bowl for the AFC, it is, I think, the Bengals. Joe Burrow is the second best quarterback in the league. I think even him with a bum leg, he's still going to perform at a top 7-8 level just because of how explosive that offense could be. That defense is coached well. Everything I still think looks really good for the Bengals this year. And they always start off slow. Don't be surprised if they start 2-2 or whatever. I'm not worried.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that worries me, like I said, is the injury, unfortunately. Obviously, we're happy it's not what we thought it was in an Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to linger, I think. And looking at their schedule here, obviously at Cleveland, I think we have as a loss, both of us.
Yes.
And then it kind of gets not easy, but pretty much the bye week they should win those games. Versus Baltimore, it might be the biggest game of the year in week 2 for them. You know, coming off a loss in week 1, week 2 is going to be massive.
Mm-hmm.
And at home should be win. At home versus Rams should be win. I think they win in Tennessee, in Arizona, and home against Seattle.
Yep.
So that puts them at 5-1 heading to the bye week with a big game in San Francisco. Big game against Buffalo. That stretch is going to be tough. You know, at Baltimore, at San Fran, Buffalo again, at Jacksonville, at Kansas City. Like, woof, that's a fucking stretch right there. They gotta win some hard road games. They do. But I think they have obviously have the talent to do that. Ravens. What?
Whew. Complete change here. Todd Monken now at OC. We've seen what he's been able to do on some teams. He was he with the Bucks at one point? I know he was with the Browns at one point. He might have been with the Bucks. Then we saw what he was doing at Georgia. I mean, we saw how that worked. Basically a whole new receiving core for Lamar. You have Odell coming back. Nelson Aguilar's there. Rookie Zay Flowers. Bateman's still hurt. They have Mark Andrews, who's a top 3 tight end in the league. They have a lot of key pieces on defense. Their big question is going to be their pass rush because they kind of don't have one. But in the linebacker core and in the secondary, they have so many playmakers and they're coached well. I feel like it's hard to see the Ravens not at least do well. They're always a team that performs well in the regular season, even no matter who's at quarterback. I mean, they just had Pro Bowler Tyler Huntley finish it off for them and get them the playoffs. But if Lamar can stay healthy, which is a kind of becoming a glaring question now because he's been missing games every year, I think is a double-digit win team. You make it to the playoffs, and then it's just a question of if Lamar can get it done in the playoffs because we haven't really seen it yet. I don't think they're there just yet. I think they need some more help on defense, but their offensive line's fine. They have a dynamic player in Lamar Jackson at quarterback, and then we just need to see if this receiving core actually helps out Lamar and how he works in a really pass-heavy system because that's what Todd Monken's going to bring.
Yeah. I love them in week 1. Love them.
They're going to CJ Stroud might die.
Love them in week 1. Love them. Love them.
Rookie quarterback against Baltimore week 1.
Love them. Shane, have I said how much I love them?
I think you like them a little bit.
Love them in week 1. Lay the points. Lay it. Lay the 9.5. They win by 2 touchdowns. Easy.
That's like a 31-10 game.
Easy.
CJ Stroud, like the Texans were so dumb in their approach to this for CJ Stroud. They didn't play him a lot in the preseason, and he didn't play full snaps in like training camp with the ones. It was him and Davis Mills spitting. So he played half the time with the starters, so he didn't really have as much time to build a connection. And now he's going against one of the most like defensive oriented teams in the league in the Baltimore Ravens week 1.
That's the reason why, like, their head coach, right? Obviously great defensive mind. But when you put a defensive head coach with a rookie quarterback, I don't know. It doesn't like, for me it doesn't mix well with the two.
If he had the weapons, then I think it would be a different story, but they just don't have really like a dynamic guy on offense.
Yeah.
Like I think their offense is going to be very vanilla this year. Like they have Dalton Schultz probably as the best pass catcher. And we don't even know if he was just made by Dak Prescott or not. That's another thing that will be seen.
Yep. All right. Moving on. Another toughie.
Is it?
I mean, is it? I mean, yeah, you're right. Is it? I mean, obviously, the Chiefs are here, but
this is the Kansas City Chief Invitational. This is all this is. As long as Patrick Mahomes is in this division and not injured for the year, the Chiefs are a minimum 13-win team, minimum, and they're going to be either the 1 or the 2 seed, depending on if another team like really performs. They retooled the offensive line. They brought in Jawan Taylor. They brought in Donovan Smith. They still are great on the interior. Bringing in Rashee Rice is the first full year of Kadarius Toney, but can he stay healthy? Sky Moore, we'll see if he's actually what the Chiefs want him to be. MVS still there. They still have the best tight end in football in Travis Kelce. The defense, if Chris Jones misses the first 8 weeks, which he said that that's, I think he's come back week 8 or week 9 or whatever. They're gonna have to be in shootouts every week, I think, because they were terrible at pressure. Even though they were second in sacks last year, it was because Chris Jones was there at the disruptor and he created space for other people. Without Chris Jones there, this pass rush may be close to non-existent, and it's just going to have to be 35 points every week for the Chiefs, which if there's a team that you would project to be that, it would be the Chiefs just because they have Patrick Mahomes and he can throw to like anybody. But it's going to be, I have them going 14-3, but I think it's going to be kind of an ugly 14-3, which is weird to say.
Hot take coming in.
Oh, what are you gonna say? They don't win the division.
Well, they win the division
Mm-hmm.
because if you look at their schedule, man,
It's hard to pick
that
out losses when looking at Patrick Mahomes.
I know, but that bottom row, man,
I mean,
yeesh.
the Bills, and Bengals, and then the last game against the Chargers. We don't even know if they're gonna have to play their starters that last week against the Chargers, depending on how they do before. But it's really just the Bills and Bengals game, to be honest.
All right, so my hot take for this team, okay,
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna start out 2-2.
You have them losing to the Jets.
Yes.
Mm. And you have them losing to Jacksonville.
On the road, man. On the road.
Mm.
Tough. It's tough. It's tough. It's tough schedule. Very tough.
That's
A
what
lot of
every team in the
outside
AFC
divisional
is gonna have.
opponents. Yeah.
The AFC is just gonna be all schedules are gonna be tough because the AFC is just that loaded. Like I think I have 3 teams finishing above 500 that don't make the playoffs in the AFC, which is like
Kind of stupid.
last year the Bucks made it with a negative record. So I mean that's just that. But the Broncos, I don't believe in Russell Wilson. I don't believe in that situation. I'm sorry. Russell Wilson looked mid last year. I think people were over exaggerating how bad Russell Wilson was. He still finished as like a top half quarterback in fantasy or whatever.
Yeah.
But Judy's already banged up. Javante's coming back way too soon on that injury. I'm sorry. 9 months for like an ACL and MCL. I'm not gonna buy into that. Their defense should still be like the strength of the team. Sean Payton, everybody thinks Russell Wilson's just gonna be like reborn. No. The Raiders, Josh McDaniels will be fired by midseason. Even though that contract is gonna be a bitch for them.
Yeah.
This team just isn't good. The Raiders, they're
No, it's
not
not.
good.
There's no backing them. Like, what are they gonna do? There's like,
Arguably worst defense in the league. We're bottom 5, I would say, at being generous. Offensive line is not really that great. Can you feed Josh Jacobs another 400 touches this year
no.
and keep him healthy throughout the year? Probably not. Jimmy Garoppolo, it kind of worked for the Raiders last year because Derek Carr wasn't afraid to take the deep shot.
Yeah.
We know Jimmy Garoppolo ain't taking deep shots. We know this. This is going to be built on playing the short to intermediate game, which doesn't really fit Devontae Adams' play style, which could hurt him. This could be a big year for like a Hunter Renfro because Jimmy Garoppolo loves playing his short to the slot guys. But what is there to like about this team? What is there to like?
It's so boring that it's bad. Like it's it's nothing interesting. Oh, it's Devontae Adams. Oh, guess it's thrown to Jimmy Garoppolo. Like it's just it's nothing good. He'll be traded by deadline.
Devontae Adams will still probably have a game or two where he goes for like 12 for like $140 something and a touchdown or two. But like, how can you be excited with injury prone Jimmy Garoppolo at the quarterback position? Maybe if Garoppolo gets hurt and they bring in Aiden O'Connell and he sparks up the offense, maybe something happens. But I have them as a bottom 4 team in the league right now. I think they need to embrace a rebuild. Try to get a quarterback of the future, whether it be they completely be the worst team and get Caleb Williams, they go get Drake May, something. Because Jimmy Garoppolo, like signing into a 3-year deal first was egregious.
Yeah, I don't get
but
that.
Like Jimmy Garoppolo works for you as a quarterback if you have something going on like the Niners, where you have a strong defense and have all the skill position players that can do stuff when they get the ball.
Correct.
A lot of these guys are like, as soon as they catch the ball, it's like they get tackled immediately. Kobe Myers, Hunter Renfro, like slot built guys that are just going to work the short to intermediate stuff. That's not going to help Jimmy Garoppolo.
I mean, yeah, going into the schedule, it's 0-4 start.
I have them going 4-13 on the year. Like, I don't see a whole lot of success coming the way of the Raiders here.
Yeah, their
It's
first win
hard.
might not be till maybe the Packers.
Um, I forgot. I could probably pull up what wins they have. I think they could probably pull one against. They win one of the games between the Packers, Patriots, and Bears. They'll win one of those at
Yeah,
least. At least one of
I
those.
can't really disagree with you on that one. Unfortunately,
It's just hard to be excited about that team in any way.
for a good
Um.
minute now, because I wasn't really on the hype train of Devontae and Derek Carr to begin with,
Mhm.
and now you bring in a worse quarterback to do basically ask to do the same thing. Yeah, not a fan.
Yeah, and there's
Um,
no more Waller there either, so the tight ends all out of
yeah,
there too.
safety blanket's kind of gone too. Um, all right, let's hop right into the NFC.
All right. We didn't talk about the Chargers. We'll just say they'll be fine. Kellen Moore, their offense should be good.
They'll be the Chargers as always.
Yeah, they just got to try to stay healthy, which they won't.
All right, NFC East, or should I say NFC Beast?
Realistically, like if we think Sam Howell can be the guy that he was projected to be, like he was projected to be a first round pick, whatever, got drafted in like the fifth. If he is what people thought he was going to be, and Eric Bieniemy actually was like a big part of that Chiefs thing, and it wasn't just Andy Reid, this division is probably the most difficult in football. Like I think this would be more competitive than the AFC North. The problem is I don't think that, and I've never been a believer in the Commanders, and I don't know if it's because of the old management. I don't know if it's just because I root for a team in this division, and I've seen what the Commanders have done, which is nothing. The past 20 something years, they haven't really done anything. Like they had a year where they made the playoffs with Taylor Heineke, and he had that little run in that playoff game against the Bucks. But besides that, the Commanders have not been like a team to bring worry in any capacity. Like they'll give you some competition in the regular season, but like getting even into the postseason, I don't see that happening in the
No,
slightest.
I think the divisional games are just too tough.
Yeah.
And looking outside Division Two is nothing. It's nothing. It's not a cupcake either. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you got you're home against the Bills, which is nice to be at home, but still, um, you got the Patriots, you got the Niners, Dallas twice, Eagles twice, the Dolphins. The good thing about this, guys, was most of their hard non-divisional games are at home. Um,
Yeah, but they haven't really had any kind of like a home field, like a big home field feel like you would have with like the Chiefs or like any of these like diehard fan bases because of how their management has been. This is the first year, obviously, of their new ownership and stuff. We'll see what changes actually come and feel about. I know that they're sold out for opening night, opening day, which is kind of crazy for the Commanders. I don't remember the last time that's happened.
it's cool.
There's a lot of optimism to be had with the Commanders because they got some young pieces. They have a great defense. This new management, maybe it brings a whole new feel to the Commanders. But again, this is the first year we're going to see Sam Howell starting a quarterback. We saw him play one game last year against the Cowboys, who were trying but not really trying. In the last game of the season, this is just a big test to see, is Ron Rivera going to be gone after this year if they underperform, and is Bieniemy who everybody thought he was in Kansas City, or was he just kind of like a face piece for what Andy Reid was actually doing?
Agreed. Um, Probably the third team in the division, the Giants.
Yeah, I
Um,
have them finishing third place in the division.
yeah,
I'm not afraid to say that the schedule for the Giants is so tough this year. Even the beginning part of their schedule. Like you face Dallas week 1. Dallas has had your number for years upon years since like 2017. It's been all Cowboys. The Cardinals, that's a soft game for week 2. Cardinals are probably going to be the worst team in the NFL. Then you have Niners at Seattle, then Miami and Buffalo, and then another divisional game in the Commanders, who could be very competitive in some games. Then the Jets. Like, it's a hard schedule for the Giants. But at the
what do you
same,
think about week 1?
the Cowboys are gonna fucking beat the shit out of them. I don't actually know. I think that's a little too strong. I think the Cowboys win, and it's not going to be like a 3-point game or anything. It's just I think very highly on the Cowboys this year, which is crazy to say. But the second year under Brian Dable, we saw what they did last year. Daniel Jones didn't turn the ball over last year, which was crazy to see after his first couple of years. But I think that comes with Brian Dable being there. We saw what he did with Josh Allen. You bring in him a main weapon in Darren Waller. It's not a conventional receiver, but it's a tight end, which can be a safety blanket. Saquon's back after contract stuff. Wink Martindale bring up the defense. The problem is just the schedule, I think. If they had a kind of lighter schedule, I could see them being in the double-digit wins category. But with the amount of stiff competition they have, I still have them finishing like 9-8. It's just the schedule hurts them so bad here.
Yeah, it's tough. Every NFC team is gonna have a tough schedule. Again, looking at outside division, it's not too bad. Niners obviously tough. Bills tough. Saints again, we don't know. We'll know by the time what they are, but we don't know. Seattle really don't know. Patriots, I mean, we don't know, but we know.
Yeah, we know.
We don't know, but we know. We don't know, but we know. So it's NFC East. Both East are going to be crazy. And we'll hop into the next one here. Okay, the Eagles, right? So what is their downfall? What's going to hinder them this year?
I think secondary play is going to be the big thing because their safeties is Reed Blankenship and Terrell Edmonds right now, as opposed to what they had last year. They had Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who was in the lead for interceptions last year. They still are probably going to have the best pass rush in football. They just have too many pieces on that defensive line. They can rotate in and out. Offense, I don't think it's going to be they did lose Shane Steichen as their OC, but their new OC is just their quarterbacks coach, and I think they're going to run a lot of similar stuff that they ran last year. There's obviously going to be some mixes in. They have a great mix at offensive weapons: Devonta Smith, AJ Brown, Dallas Goedert, a 5-headed running backfield that nobody knows what the hell is going to happen there. Just whenever the Eagles play the Giants, just bet for Boston Scott to score a touchdown because that's the only person he scores against. And then the offensive line is still going to be probably the best in football. So it's hard to imagine the Eagles not having any success. Do I think that, like last year, every game, in the second half, they're going to be already up by 2 scores? No, I think there's going to be a lot more close games here, which could probably help the offense in some ways because they're going to have to actually compete in games and not have to give up for a quarter because they're already up by a bunch. I still have them winning the division. It's going to be close between them and the Cowboys. But I don't see the Eagles really declining a whole lot. I had them going 12-5 this year, which is still arguably the top of the NFC. But I don't see them seriously declining, having the Super Bowl runner-up hangover. Even though they've been complaining about that turf for a year at this point, and the Chiefs were also playing on that turf, so they don't really get the argument. Yeah, the Eagles are just going to be the Eagles. They're going to be fun to watch. They're going to be one of the top dogs in the NFC. Not really much else to say. Really.
Yeah, it's tough to shit on them because they're obviously a really good team.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's been tough to win. Like teams in the NFC East don't win back to back.
Back-to-back divisions, yeah.
Yeah. So one of my futures I like is the Eagles to win this division. The Cowboys win the division. Not solely on that too, and we're gonna hop into the Cowboys here in a second, but not solely just for that reason. I mean, the Cowboys are kind of loaded. You know what I mean? Like,
I think you could. The case can be made for them to have the best defense in football. They add now Stephon Gilmore opposite of Diggs. Now they're 1-2 at corner is going to be good. They still have Micah Parsons, who is going to be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. They have DeMarcus Lawrence, who's still a good complementary piece at this point. Offensively, you have Mike McCarthy now calling the plays, which could be interesting. No more Ezekiel Elliott, so this is the Tony Pollard show now in that backfield. You add Brandon Cooks on offense, giving Dak a clear number 2 option. I don't think Gallup's built to be a number 2 option at this point, especially because he came off of like a torn ACL last year, or he came back from a torn ACL last year. Offensive line still going to be a strength of this team. It's just the Cowboys work. They're always going to have a good offensive line. Can Dak handle the pressure of being the QB in the big games for the Dallas Cowboys? Because we've seen the Cowboys, they haven't really done great in the playoffs in 20-something years. Can this be the change? We saw Dak throw a lot of interceptions last year, but he had a bad thumb. I think people overhate on Dak a little bit, and that's coming from a Giants fan. A lot of people seem to be off of the Cowboys because they're like, okay, it's just the same thing every year at the Cowboys. This is my point now to jump on the Dallas Cowboys. I have the Dallas Cowboys in the Super Bowl. I will say right now. Don't even have them winning the division, but I have them in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they're one of my 4 to get there. We have the same 4. So there's value in them winning the division at plus money. They have the talent to do so. It's just 1, health. 2, can Mike McCarthy not just suck as a coach?
Mm-hmm.
And can Dak be accurate and not turn the ball over? Tony Pollard's got to stay healthy because that running back depth chart is pretty gross, in my opinion.
Rico Dowdle's the number 2 right now. Ronald Jones is suspended for the first 2 games, so maybe he comes in to be the number 2. They have Deuce Vaughn, who is really tiny, but he was shown he has the speed to make up for that though, and like players have said, like it's hard to spot him on the field just because of how small he is and how like shifty he can be when he has the ball in his hands. So like the running back room obviously isn't as good as it was last year. You had Zeke and Pollard being a 2-headed monster, and that was the big fear for Tony Pollard, like fantasy wise, was we all think that they're going to sign a running back, whether it be Ben Dalvin Cook, Ezekiel Elliott, Leonard Fournette, Kareem Hunt, somebody. He's dodged every bullet so far. So this looks, and he is coming off of an injury that he had last season, but I'm not worried about that. I still think he's going to be a dog. I think they've been they said that they wanted to focus on running the ball a lot more, but every move they've done has shown otherwise. They didn't bring in another running back. It's just Tony Pollard. You bring in Brandon Cooks. You're not bringing in Brandon Cooks if you want to run the ball a whole lot.
Yeah.
Their tight end Jake Ferguson, who's coming on to his second year, I think he's going to have a big year as like a sleeper tight end. This team on paper should be great, and I think this is the first time that we're going to see a Dallas Cowboys team actually like be great in a while. It's just a feel to them. It's like how I feel about the Bengals. There's just something.
It's quiet.
Yeah. Everybody's always talking about the Cowboys, and then they underperform. No one's talking about them this year, so now it seems like this is probably going to be the year where they go off.
Yeah, I agree. All right, NFC North.
Oh, here we go. This is the flip a coin division. Flip a coin division. I don't even know where to start on this division because there's a lot of positives I can have and a lot of negatives I can have depending on the team we talk about.
Let's go to the Lions first.
All right, the internet darlings. Yeah, I don't see them performing the way that the rest of like Twitter and whatnot think. Their offense, I think, is due for some sort of regression as opposed to last year. Like, we're not going to get 17 rushing touchdowns from one of their running backs. Jared Goff, I don't think, is going to be one of the most efficient quarterbacks. Because Jared Goff, the big question about him has been consistency, and we've been yet to see it. So I'm not just going to randomly bank on another year of consistency when for the past however many years we've seen him be inconsistent. Defense is still a problem for the Lions, I think. I don't think they've done enough on that side of the ball. They obviously have a head coach that they believe in and a culture that they're building. I think eventually it could be their time, but I think with Jared Goff at quarterback, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm sorry. They still have a great offensive line. I think offense is not as big a question mark as defense, but I see this team now performing as they were at the end of the season last year. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's wide open, of course. It's just, what are we gonna see from this Lions team? Are we gonna see, first couple year Rams of Jared Goff, or are we gonna see last year revamped version of Jared Goff? That's the
history has shown it's gonna probably lean towards that Rams one, but we'll
unfortunately.
See. Yeah.
All right, Green Bay Packers, first year without Aaron Rodgers.
This team, I think, is what the Lions were last year. This team is so young on the offensive side of the ball. Jordan Love, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, and Luke Musgrave are the main pieces of the passing offense. Aaron Jones is obviously the vet of the team. You still have A.J. Dillon, who's young. This is a big development team. Like, they still have a good defense and they need to develop on offense. But this is probably one of the more exciting teams to watch, just because I think people want to see what is Jordan Love really the next guy for the Packers. They have a system they run where they sit a quarterback for 3 years after they draft him and then they play him. This is basically the same thing. That they did it with Favre, they did it with Rodgers. I'm not saying Jordan Love's going to be either of those guys, because I think that'd be ludicrous at this point. But it's worked for them in the past, so it's hard to think that Jordan Love's just going to be a complete wash. I don't think he's going to be top 10 or bottom 10 quarterback in the league, but I think it's still too early to see because he hasn't really had that much experience at this level to think he's going to be great.
Yeah, it's wide open. Like I said, it's the whole season itself is just wide open.
Mm-hmm.
You know what we're getting from the Bears. You know what we're getting from Jordan Love. Obviously, it's their first year without
Aaron Rodgers.
It's gonna be interesting to see. I like the Packers here. I like their value to win the division. It's a long shot, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Lot to expect out of Jordan Love's basically rookie year. But it's got some value. Let me pull up his schedule.
Seen a lot of analysts picking the Packers to win this division.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad pick, to be honest, dude. Look at your
just because of how open it is.
Look at your first 7-8 games of the season. They can legitimately beat 8-0. That's not a long shot to say.
It's a long shot to say that they'll be in every game, but I think realistically thinking there's going to be some growing pains here with Jordan Love.
Of course. But I'm going to say right now that those first 8 are all winnable.
Yeah. I think up until the Steelers or the Chargers game, it's pretty
smooth sailing.
Safe to say. I think they'll lose to the Chargers. And then their first really big test is probably week 3 is probably their first test game against what we think will be the New Orleans Saints. But a lot of lower tier teams on their schedule. They have one of the softer schedules in the NFL, which is very beneficial for this team because it's a lot of youth and needing of development on the offense.
Yep. Justin Fields. right? Coming into what, year 3? Is that correct? Year
Yeah,
3?
yep. Because this is Mac Jones' third year, Trevor's third year. Yep.
So year 3. Um, I'd say high expectations because they bought into him. They got another wide receiver to help him in his development. I think it's a huge year for this team. Not to say it's a huge year just for Justin, but in terms of like the next step, like what is next for this team?
Yeah. I don't. We're not going to get like a full onslaught of Justin Fields slinging the rock down the field. I think that they're still going to probably lean on the run game. They have like 3 backs they can use. Justin Fields himself in the running game. We saw him rush for over 1,000 yards last year. We've seen teams get their young quarterback a dynamic weapon and then seen like how it's helped them. We'll see if DJ Moore can be that for Justin Fields. They've already had a great connection even just in the preseason. Um, they have the improved offensive line, even though it's been getting a little bit banged up in practice. They have Darnell Mooney who's going to be back. They have Chase Claypool who they traded for. I think they're going to try to actually implement him. They have Cole Kmet. Big question here is the defense still. This defense I still think is not going to be that great. They brought in Tremaine Edmonds from the Buffalo. They just brought in Yannick Ngakoue, who's been basically around that 10 sack mark the past 2 years. But is that enough to really help this team? I think out of every team that has a worst to first, like finish worst in the division to then finish top of the division, they're probably in the top like 2 or 3 in the conversation that you can have that with. It's probably them. Uh, the Falcons, I think, finished worst in that division for the NFC South. But like the Bears could realistically win the division, and they could also realistically be the worst team of the division, which is
Yeah.
what I'm leaning on them being not that great. I have them going 6-11, which is an improvement to last year. I mean, they were the worst team last year. They finished 3-14, 3-13-1, something like that. This team's going to be built on the offense. I think the defense is still going to be a problem for them, and that's why they're not going to be able to be in some of these games because I don't think their offense is to the point where they can compete with a lot of these other high-powered offenses. But there's a lot of promising things on this team in this rebuild.
Yep. It's just like it's funny though. All these divisions that are so wide open, and look at their schedule here one more time. Like they could again. We say how these teams start out as huge.
Mm-hmm.
First 2 games winnable.
Mm-hmm.
Chiefs obviously not gonna win that game. But next, 1, 2, 3, 4. Next 4 all winnable games because we have no idea what the Broncos are going to be.
No.
Manners tough. It might be a tough game because of the defense. That'll be a bloodbath, I think.
Yeah.
But then you got Chargers and Saints, which Chargers we know offensively probably going to be too much for the Bears. Saints don't know too much, so a lot of unknowns in this year that we have found through talking through this. That it's just a lot of unknowns heading into this year.
Yeah.
Um,
And then Minnesota, I don't think they're going to be undefeated in 1-score games like they were last year. I don't think they're going to have a game where they have the biggest comeback in the NFL like last year. That the run game is going to be a huge question mark on this team. No more Dalvin Cook. It's Alexander Mattison. We've seen what he's done in place of Dalvin Cook when Dalvin Cook sat out, but can he sustain that for a full year? That's a huge thing. He's actually pretty inefficient when you look at his numbers. They bring in Jordan Addison in the first round. They're trying to build this defense because it was deplorable last year. They bring in Marcus Davenport. They bring in Byron Murphy. Brian Flores is the new defensive coordinator. But I still have the Vikings winning the division. I just think their offense is going to be too good and their defense isn't going to be as bad. But this is still a really close division. And then when it comes down to it, Kirk Cousins, when the lights are on him in the prime time in the playoffs, they're not going to go anywhere. Even Justin Jefferson didn't think Kirk Cousins was a top 5 quarterback, which is bad if your own receiver can't even say that you're that good. I don't know. This division's open, but I don't really see much changing with the Vikings being on top and then blowing it in the playoffs.
I don't know. I'm kind of wishy-washy on this Vikings team. I think, losing a guy like Adam Thielen is not huge on, like, I don't know. On paper, it looks huge because he's the number 2. But obviously they get Addison, who's going to be, I think, pretty good.
Yes.
It's
Stay off
just
the
he-
highway though. Can't be driving that fast.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's just like Vikings might be one of the biggest question marks or questions this year we can ask ourselves. Like, what do we really expect from Kirk? That's the issue.
I
Like,
mean,
what do we?
Kirk puts up numbers every year. That's not going to be really the problem. I just don't see them doing what they did last year in all these one-score games. They won like 11-0 in one-score games or something. That's going to tone down a bit. I forget how many wins they had last year. I think they had like 11 or 12 or something. They finished pretty with a lot of wins.
Yeah.
I had them finishing 9-8, but even in this loaded division, that's I think going to be enough. Or not loaded, this questionable division is going to be enough.
All right, 2 more to go. NFC South. Let's save the West for last. NFC South comes in. Again, just a lot of question marks. Like, what are we seeing out of the Saints? What are we seeing out of the rookie quarterback in Bryce Young? What are we seeing out of Desmond Ritter? Is Baker Mayfield back? Like what is your biggest it factor for this division?
I think the biggest thing could be Baker Mayfield because I mean we saw last year was the Seahawks, right? Really new quarterback. How is this really going to work? Type scenario. If he can be kind of like Geno Smith and where he's actually performing well, and they have the weapons to help them. I think they have the defense that could support them. This team could be back in the hunt in this wide open division. My problem is I don't believe in Baker Mayfield. I think he gets benched at some point for Kyle Trask. I don't think there was any point to them saying Kyle Trask was going to be the starter because if they see that Kyle Trask isn't good and they bench him, they're already like giving up on him after like 6 games. They can at least do that with Baker, who's been on the move recently. He's the more experienced player. Ryan Jensen's out for them for the year, so that really hurts the offensive line, which was already a weak point of the team. Devin White's already asked for a trade out. Mike Evans wants out. This team bought in to win a Super Bowl, which they did a few years ago with Tom Brady, but now they're really facing the repercussions of the money and whatnot. So it's going to probably be a rough couple of years for the Bucs, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's Baker Mayfield. Not much more to say. Not really a believer in him, unfortunately. He's kind of proven to us what he is. He's just an average quarterback.
At best.
At best. Yeah, you're right. How about the Falcons? I know you and I aren't high on them at all, really, this year.
No. So this Falcons team, I bring a lot of comparisons to the 2018 Giants. And this team was like 5-11 or whatever. I had the Falcons going 5-12. They have the really highly touted running back prospects. Saquon Barkley's rookie year. This is Bijan's rookie year. They have the dynamic offensive, like fast guy at tight end. Evan Engram was it for the Giants. It's Kyle Pitts for the Falcons. They have the number 1 receiver that can be a game changer. Odell was that guy. This was like later Odell, so this wasn't like prime Odell. Odell was still capable of getting some games. They have Drake London. They have the question mark quarterback. Old Eli Manning, it's young Desmond Ritter. They have a really they have a good secondary, but their pass rush is going to be non-existent. I looked at their depth chart last night. Their best pass rushers, 39-year-old Calais Campbell, and then you have Grady Jarrett there, who's been a staple of the team. I think he's fine. But then your 2 main outside pass rushers, Lorenzo Carter, who's a former Giant, and Arnold Ebiketie. Arnold Ebiketie. who was like a second round pick a couple years ago. Is anybody scared by that? I'm not. Their secondary is going to be, I think, the strength of the defense. They have Jesse Bates, who they brought in. They have AJ Terrell, who's like a top 10 corner. They traded for Jeff Okuda, who had a rough going in Detroit. We'll see if he can bounce back in Atlanta. They have Mike Hughes back there. This is the first full season without Deion Jones there. He's not even on a team right now, which is crazy. I think there's going to be a lot of ups and downs with this team. I think they're going to rely heavily on Bijan. For good reason. They invested top 10 draft capital, best running back prospect since Barkley, and we saw what Barkley did his rookie year. Went for 2,000 yards from scrimmage. Their schedule isn't hard. They're in a shaky division, so there's obviously the upside to where if Desmond Ridder is actually like competent, they can win the division. I personally don't believe in him, which is going to be like the big part of them not being as good as they could be. But they have like key weapons at every skill position and the good offensive line. It's just when you have that question mark at quarterback, it can really make or break you.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Ritter fan. I wasn't a fan of him in college, and going from like a place like Cincinnati to but to a place like Atlanta, which I mean isn't a huge football town, but it's still the NFL, and Cincinnati isn't a huge football school, so it's not like he got like overpowered with media or expectations. To be honest with you, so it's tough for me to back him because honestly, just don't trust him.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the pieces around him though. I like
Yes.
London. I like Bijan. How can you not like Bijan? Kyle Pitts is still there. Offensive line, I think's iffy.
They're big on run blocking. Pass blocking could be questionable, but I think they're building this team to be run first. I think obviously they took Bijan in the top 10 of the
Yeah,
draft, so that shows their thing. They I think had the most rushing or was the best rushing team last year. We saw Tyler Algier rush for 1,000 yards, and he didn't even start till like the back half of the season. We've seen what Cordero Patterson, who was a wide receiver converted to running back, can do
yeah.
in this system. He ran for 1,000 yards one year. So I think Bijan's gonna be the focal point of the offense. I think that goes without saying. He's probably gonna see 20 plus opportunities a game. The good thing is he's young. He doesn't have a lot of wear and tear, so that should help them out this year. I think coming years after this, they're gonna have to start to be a little bit more careful about how much usage he actually sees. This team's gonna be fun to watch, though. They got a lot of exciting pieces on both sides of the ball. A lot of dynamic guys on offense in London, Pitts, Bijan. Cordell Patterson could take one to the house whenever you want. The best kick returner in NFL history, statistics wise. Is Arthur Smith really a guy that we could trust at quarter or at head coach? Don't know.
Definitely not a quarterback.
Yeah. Desmond Ridder at quarterback. We don't know. He only threw, I think, 2 touchdown passes last year in 5-6 starts. It's going to be a heavy dose of the run. Arthur Smith's is bringing that from Tennessee. He wanted a guy that can be not like Derrick Henry in play style, but like Derrick Henry can be the focal point of an offense, and that's what he's getting with Bijan. But Bijan adds the versatility of being able to catch the ball in whether he's lined out at running back or receiver.
Yeah, it's just this is a quarterback for me. That's what it is. In a division where he's probably the second to third best.
It's hard to judge him and Bryce Young because we haven't really seen him play.
Yeah.
If Derek Carr was the quarterback for the Falcons right now, I think we're talking about how this team's definitely the best team in the division. It's kind of like what we're doing with the Saints right now because Derek Carr's now the quarterback of that team. Is Michael Thomas going to stay healthy at all? For 3 years we've been waiting for him to get to 100%, and Every year it's kind of the same story. We're like, oh, we think this is it. He's going to be back, and then it's another setback after another setback after other setback. They're still waiting for him to be at 100%. They have Chris Olave, who was good last year, and everybody's expecting the big breakout this year for Chris Olave to be the real number one. Alvin Kamara's out the first 3 games from on suspension, but they brought in Jamal Williams, so their backfield isn't going to be hurting too much. They still have arguably a top 10 defense, which is the first time Derek Carr is even having like a top 20 defense on his side, which was a big hindrance for when he was on the Raiders. Like on paper, the Saints should win this division. They have arguably one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. Big upgrade at the quarterback position. Good offensive line, good defense. It's hard to not envision them win the division, but just like last year, everybody thought that they could have done something last year, and they flopped the bed at quarterback. So we'll see if Derek Carr can do it.
Yeah, looking at the schedule, just they play no quarterbacks.
Their best quarterback's Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, and not to shit on Trevor Lawrence, but like
We haven't
that's the
seen like a
toughest.
whole everything out of him.
Yeah, that's the toughest quarterback you play, and probably the best team you play. So um, pretty easy schedule. It's just will they win the games they need to win, and just wait and find out. All right, Panthers rookie quarterback come into the league. What's like a realistic expectation for this team this year?
I have them going 6-11 just because rookie quarterbacks never really like go crazy in like for a full season. I mean, we saw Brock Purdy, who was Mr. Relevant last year, and he's won like 7-1 in his starts. But this team doesn't really have the weapons like the Niners did. Obviously, you bring in Adam Thielen, you bring in DJ Chark, you bring in Miles Sanders. I think you're going to try to lean a lot in the running game to try to help Bryce Young. I don't think there's any doubting Bryce Young's ability to read the field. We saw it in college, and we've seen all the reports out of camp. Like this dude talks like he's a 10-year vet. I think he brings leadership that this Panthers team needs. And they have a defense that's pretty decent. They got some playmakers, including Brian Burns. It's just that it's a rookie quarterback, so he's going to have some growing pains. And there's going to be times where he looks pretty good, but there's also going to be times where he shows that he's a rookie. This division's open, so they do have the chance to be an outlier and have a rookie quarterback lead them. But we haven't seen anything yet, so I don't think this year is the year for the Panthers.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard for me to be hyped about this team just because obviously the quarterback situation. I don't know what we're getting yet. I have my question marks with him too, with regarding
Size.
size, strength. Can he take a hit? So that division will be interesting. I think it's Saints division to lose.
Yeah.
But it should still gonna be interesting to see if they can still pull it together. Their coach hasn't really proven anything that he can win in this league, and Dennis Allen. So we'll see. All right, next one and final division, NFC West. Which way to start with first, Shane?
We should just get the garbage out of the way. So the Arizona Cardinals. If I'm them, I'm not playing Kyler at all this year, and then I think they are the favorites to get Caleb Williams if Caleb Williams declares. They traded D Hop. They have a terrible offensive line, terrible defense. They traded away a top 10 pick in Isaiah Simmons for a bag of chips. Don't really believe in Gannon as their head coach. There's a clip going out about him and trying to hype up the team, and nobody looks enthusiastic in the slightest. JJ Watt's not there anymore. There's not really anything to be hyped about for the Cardinals. If I don't think Kyler has a reason to play this year. But obviously he's gonna try to play just because that's in his character. But they start off like 1-6, 1-7. Is he really going to be motivated to play this year?
Yeah, probably not. I don't think he plays.
I don't think he plays either.
But I don't see it. I don't see it really at all. That looks like 0-5, 0-6, 0-7, 0-8, 0-9.
I had him 3-14, which is the worst record I gave out to anybody.
Yeah, it's not good.
This is
It's not good.
complete rebuild is coming for the Cardinals.
Yeah. Agreed. All right, let's go to the Rams.
This team's going to go one of two ways. And it's not looking good for the first way, where their offense is going to carry the team, because Cooper Kupp's already hurt. He's already probably being held out week 1, which is not a good look. And it's a hamstring injury. Hamstring injuries linger. He's going to be there the whole year. Matt Stafford was playing with like Tommy John. He needed Tommy John surgery for his arm.
Yep.
We'll see if he can bounce back somewhat. I mean, even if he does, like, there's not a whole lot on this offense. Tyler Higbee's like your number 2. And then you have Van Jefferson, who's like meh. Cam Akers, has been waiting for like 3 years for this Cam Akers breakout to happen. He just really underperforms or gets hurt, and then at the end of the year he just pops off. This defense is going to be in contention for worst defense in the league. They just have nobody anymore. I mean, they have Aaron Donald, but I'm not surprised if Aaron Donald gets traded midseason. There's been a lot of talks about that. He wanted to retire last year, but Sean McVay convinced him otherwise. But like, what is he playing for right now? He's got a ring with the Rams. He's already probably the best defensive player of this generation. I think he's probably going to get shipped off at some point to a contender.
Wow.
And I think the Rams have already been a part of like a mini rebuild right now, but I think they're going to start getting ready for like a full-on thing. It's just like the Bucs. They bought in to get the Super Bowl that year, and now they're going to have to pay the consequences of all that money. Like, there's a lot of dead cap space, and that money's got to get off somehow. And it's going to be in years like this where you're going to be playing a lot of lower tier guys on minimal contracts, and it's going to result in not a great season.
It's just the defense. It really is. I like Stafford. Obviously, when he's healthy, RB top 10 quarterback in the league. He's getting older. He's hurt. He got hurt last year. The problem is, like, outside of Kupp, right? Like, what is their offense really?
It's Tyler Higbee and Van Jefferson. And if Cooper Kupp was healthy coming into the season, I'd be a little bit higher on them. But him already being hurt and already not going to be playing week 1 with a hamstring injury that's going to be there the whole season.
Yep.
Cooper Kupp is, like, when he plays, he's still going to be a dog. I think that's safe to say. He's going to get all the work. But we've seen him get hurt because he keeps getting all the work, and there is nobody else to throw to. So it's hard to envision a world where the Rams get close to winning the division or make the playoffs this year. I just think the other 2 teams in this division are going in a completely different direction than the Rams, which is up. Some people might call into question Sean McVay at this point. It's like, is it time to move on from Sean McVay? Like,
Possibly.
was it just a 1 or 2 year like high that he had? Like, we saw Matt Nagy have a 1 or 2 year high with the Bears, and then he got shipped off as soon as things started to go wrong. They may look to just completely revamp this team. It's hard to say. We'll see what happens, I guess. I'm not that high on the Rams this year.
All right. Next team is a kind of shocking team from last year. Seahawks come into this year. What do you expect?
I'm obviously not expecting Geno to be one of 5 quarterbacks with 30+ touchdowns in the year, and him being a complete like surprise to the league. Everybody's now prepared for Geno Smith. They kind of underperformed in the second half of last year after all the tape had been out. It's weird to say all the tape out on Geno Smith because he's been in the league for so long. But teams were adjusting to that. They made they've added to the offense. They bring in Jackson Smith and Jigba. They bring in Zach Charbonnet, which should help ease Geno Smith a bit in this probably regression that he's going to have from last year. The defense is still growing and developing. Tariq Woolen was a star last year, 5th-round pick star. You bring in Devon Witherspoon to be on the other side of him. You have Jordan Brooks at linebacker. You bring back Bobby Wagner, who was a leader for this team. Jamal Adams still there. You still have Pete Carroll, who's a top coach in the league. If Geno repeats what he did last year and he's still this top guy at quarterback, I think the ceiling for this team could be the NFC Championship.
Okay.
I have them coming a little bit. I still have them making the playoffs. I have them at double-digit wins. I think they win a playoff game this year, but I don't think they have enough to get above the teams like the Eagles, like the Cowboys, like the Niners. Like they're like in the tier just below those three, in my opinion.
All righty. Next one is going to be an easy one.
This is a full year of Brock Purdy. We'll see if he can continue what he was doing last year. He was obviously came out of nowhere and was electric. He was Mr. Irrelevant, went 7-1 in starts. He has some questionable accuracy things, but we've seen him make plays. He has all the weapons around him to succeed. He has a good system that he's in. He's got Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell in that backfield to help him out a lot. Has a top defense on the other side of the ball. It's just a question of if Purdy can lead them to far in the playoffs, lead them to the Super Bowl. We saw him get to the NFC Championship last year, and then every quarterback in the past however long just got injured for him. Purdy got hurt. Whoever their backup got hurt. Josh Johnson got hurt. It was Christian McCaffrey at quarterback at one point in that NFC Championship game. It's hard to imagine them not being that great just because of all the talent they have on both sides of the ball. Nick Bosa has been a bit of a question mark right now because of the contract situation, but it seems like it's trending towards he's going to get extended and he's going to be playing for them, the reigning Defensive Player of the Year. It's hard to find a flaw in this Niners team. I think this might be the most complete roster in the league. But I think quarterback play could be the determining factor of whether or not they can get to the next level, because Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant for a reason, I think.
Yeah.
There was a reason the Niners passed up on him so many times, and every other team, 200-something picks, passed up on him. I mean, we've seen success stories from later round picks, but it's yet to be seen. He's in the. If there was to be a guy in this is the situation to be in, with all the people around him. He's a perfect fit for Shanahan. That's why they moved on from Trey Lance, which was it is the worst trade in draft history. I think the only thing that would really compete with that is when the Saints traded their entire draft to go get Ricky Williams or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they ended up trading him a couple.
How about the Bears with Trubisky?
That's not. They gave up. The Niners gave up 3 first-round picks to go get Brock Purdy, and those picks ended up in return being Tyreek Hill, because that was the pick. That was a pick with like the Chiefs and whatnot. Jalen Waddle and Bradley Chubb.
Thanks.
So yeah, that doesn't look that good for the Niners in that aspect, but they still just have a great roster and a good system and great defense. It's hard to bet against them. Yeah, it's hard to bet against them. At least in the regular season.
Yeah. All right. That'll do it for our season preview. That was fun. Thursday, we'll drop our Packers Lions picks. That'll be dropping Thursday around noontime.
Chiefs, Lions, Bucko.
What'd I say?
Packers.
Who the hell is that? Chiefs, Lions, Thursday Night Football, opening day. I mean, what else could you ask for? Should be a great game. Chiefs probably going to win that one. Do they cover? Do they not cover? That's the question. How many points? Over, under? I think Shane and I both like the under in that one. But we'll see. Guys, week 1's here, and so are we. Every Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, we'll be here breaking down the slate. Shane's gonna have some fantasy picks for you every single week. We'll have some player props, straight bets, parlays, everything. We'll have it right here with you every Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Pick City YouTube channel, Go Grima Sports Twitter page, the Money Backers Twitter page at the Money Backers. Give us a follow. We're out.
See ya.